Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News Update. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Today, I'm highlighting news from right here in Trinidad and Tobago. Commissioner of Police Alistair Guevarro recently claimed that murder statistics in Trinidad and Tobago continue to trend downward due to targeted police operations, while asserting that his officers face unfair public criticism from online commentators and skeptical citizens. You know what I would like CNC3 to do? They're usually the fact checkers of Trinidad and Tobago. And we all know that you don't really like UNC that much. So you make yourself useful for once in a CNC3 and Akash Samlo. Can you go back and compile clips of all the different police commissioners, minus Gary Griffith, right? Minus Gary Griffith. We talk about it in recent times. Whether it is Pastor Praying Mantis Earler, right? Or the other guy that came in afterwards, I can't remember his name right now, or Alistair Guevarro. And get back the clips that show where each of these individuals, of all of these individuals, made the same claim. That under their leadership, crime was being reduced, that the murder rate was being reduced. You know, the TTPS was working hard to end the crime crisis here in Trinidad and Tobago. It's no different, you know. It's the same copy. Benjamin, that's the guy I was trying to remember. Right? Benjamin. So, and he was an acting police commissioner, right? But nevertheless, so all of them use the same narrative, use the same talk, you know. How under their leadership, Trinidad and Tobago Police Service is working extra hard to reduce crime, and there's statistical evidence to show, statistical data to show that crime is being reduced here in Trinidad and Tobago. Go back, the man. Akash Sabaru, do us a favor here in Trinidad and Tobago. Make a nice compilation and present it on the 7 p.m. news, showing all the different police commissioners that are making that same claim. And we are talking about very insignificant reductions in crime, because crime fluctuates anyhow you take it. And yes, we all understand and know that during lockdowns, during an SOE, for some crime will be reduced to an extent, right? Especially because of lockdowns, like when Gary Griffith was Commissioner of Police. The lockdowns prevented freedom of movement of people during certain hours and whatsoever. So it was a bit harder for people to go about committing certain types of crime because they were afraid of just getting arrested just for being on the streets. You understand what I'm showing you? Right? Putting that aside, I did give Gary Griffith credit recently. Besides the lockdowns and the SOE and whatsoever under Emperor Thanos Rowley's rule, Gary Griffith did implement certain types of policies within the police service itself that appear to be quite effective. And maybe, just maybe, crime would not have reduced that much if it was just due to the lockdowns alone. I'm giving credit when credit is due, people. But I'm not saying that Gary Griffith must be given full credit for the significant reduction in crime and murder while he was Commissioner of Police. I believe he must be given part of that recognition too. Right? But these people are not always, so that was said to put aside Gary Griffith, because he has a justified reason for taking a certain amount of credit, right? But these others are just talk and more talk. And the thing about it is, you are using an undemocratic way to control crime. So in other words, the police is making it clear they don't care if we become a dictatorship. They don't care if we become a police state, as long as they could make their agency, their law enforcement agency, look as though they're effective. When they're not, you're locking up people and you can't charge them. Boasting about hundreds upon hundreds of arrests, but the vast majority of them cannot be charged with any crime. So all you're really doing is admitting that you're incompetent, you're incapable of conducting legitimate, real, genuine, effective investigations in order to be able to acquire or allocate valid evidence, real evidence so that you can press charges, you can lay charges against these individuals, and then successfully prosecute them for their crimes in court so that they can be sent to prison. Your TTPS fails to do that. But you don't mind. You don't mind having to just continue locking up people for months at a time, as long as you could continue to claim as though crime is being reduced. However, official statements of progress must be evaluated alongside actual political operational realities. With the UNC administration having newly entered office last year, political leaders cannot reasonably claim credit for broader structural shifts in national security, nor do minor statistical changes justify the draconian measures that I just mentioned and emergency tactics previously relied upon under the PNM governance. People, Kamala, I said it over and over again, Kamala is destroying the UNC. Right about now, even with this race war, she's destroying it. Because you cannot win the PNM on a race war. Trinidadians will always sympathize with the PNM people, the PNM supporters, the Afro-Trinidadians, even though they despise PNM. Once they start to hear race, they are going to go back and sympathize with their PNM supporters who are racist. That is just the reality, people. You are not understanding that. I feel sorry. I really feel sorry for the woman that was booed what it was. You know. She has no say. She can't tell. Can't remember her name right now. But she can't tell the Prime Minister what she's doing is crap, because she will just lose her position in the government. So she has to endure insults from her own Afro-Trinidadian people. Because Kamala broke her promise. Kamala said when UNC wins, everybody wins. And everybody ain't winning one tata right now. The common man isn't winning anything right now. So people use it as an opportunity to boo this poor woman. This woman that has no say in the government. You want to boo anybody, boo Kamala. What are you booing her for? But I told my sister that night that I understand why the woman was doing it. People are frustrated and fed up with the lies. You told people, the government, the Kamala administration promised people change, and we didn't end up getting change. We ended up getting a PNM on steroids. That's what we ended up getting. So the thing about it is, even when it pertains to crime fighting, Rowley is the one that declared crime a health crisis and decided to use an SOE to fight crime. Because he realized, I'm just saying, I'm assuming, he realized that crime was reduced under the lockdown. So he said, you know what? Let's try it try it again to see if we can get the numbers back down again. Just saying it, that's probably why he did it. But nevertheless, as he set the precedent in this time, I'm not started the whole thing, the ball rolling back in 2011. But that was a limited state of emergency, and it wasn't really there for long anyhow, you take it. But now, Kamala has been governing this country for over a year, using a state of emergency and using preventive detention orders to lock up people for months at a time. But that is a PNM policy. Kamala is acting like a PNM. Kamala is acting using tribal politics, using the race card just like PNM, which is only causing more problems, the victimhood mentality. Causing more problems. You should have just left things alone, Kamala. But no, you always had to keep fighting back for the wrong reasons. There's a time to fight, but not for those reasons. Looking strictly at the figures up to late July of this year, 2026, compared to the exact period in 2025, official data, police data shows a minor reduction rather than a dramatic transformation. Benjamin used to do it. With, Pastor Praying Mantis earlier used to do it. Very minor reductions in crime, and they used to try to take credit for it, and I used to tell them plainly, within months it's going to escalate again, and then they will just keep quiet about it. Or say, no, you can't just study that spike. That's just because of turf wars or whatever. Now this government claiming that we don't really have any kind of big turf wars again. No. All of a sudden, all turf wars done. The lies, boy, the lies, and the more lies. What I can't handle. Between January 1st and July 20th, 2026, the national murder toll stood at 213 homicides, 213. By comparison, during the exact time frame through late 2025, the country had recorded approximately 228 murders. People, it's less, but it's not significantly less. If we continue at this rate, we're still going to be around 400 murders for this year. That's a whole lot. That's nothing to be celebrating. That's nothing to boast about because you have less than PNM. While police leadership highlights this 15 homicide drop as proof that current strategies are working, the overall murder rate remains severe, concerning the whole world looking at tiny little Trinidad and Tobago with murders every day, demonstrating that violent crime continues at an unacceptable high baseline despite minor year-over-year variations. It's just fluctuations, people. Fluctuations. Furthermore, reliance on heavy-handed policing and emergency declarations continues to draw sharp criticism from both local citizens like myself, like Gary Griffith, like Michaela Pandey, and international observers. Foreign human rights bodies and diplomatic figures, including U.S. Ambassador and nominee Jennifer Johnson Carroll under the Trump administration, have explicitly warned against using states of emergency to fight ordinary crime. I'm not silent about that, you know. I'm not silent about that. These international warnings emphasize that temporary emergency powers fail to address the root cause of violence and signal unresolved systemic failure rather than sound long-term enforcement. I keep saying this over and over again. You need to end gang culture glorification and indoctrination here in Trinidad and Tobago. And you have to do it in certain ways. Ban the glorification of gang culture on our nation's airwaves, in our public places. Ban it. Ban it. But besides that, which is a little on the draconian side, but is needed, because no country, nowhere should be glorifying murder on the airwaves. That is madness. It's demonic. But besides that, we need to get into the communities. Over and over again, I keep saying this. It sounds, I don't know. I don't really hear much people speaking about it, but it's a reality. Open and reopen community centers. Get the youth involved in positive extracurricular activities and use these same centers to hold counseling sessions so that we could de-radicalize these individuals. Try to teach them that worshipping weed and gang culture and zest is not the right thing to do. It leads you to a path of destruction. Youths are growing up in communities and households really believing that the zest life, that the gangster life is a good life, that blinging for a couple years and then dying and RIP and fly high angels, fly high, while sipping on Hennessy in heaven and smoking the herb. They believe in that as a religion, basically, people. That needs to stop. That needs to stop. Get the youths involved in positive activities and there must be counseling sessions. We're not talking about any kind of other indoctrination, you know. I'm not telling people to go and try to preach to the people or anything like that, you know. You understand? We could even use pastors to go and pray for them and whatsoever. But we don't want to try to not offend, but try to force anything on the people by using the community centers. I'm not saying that. You can keep your messages very basic. Use the basic biblical principles and values without trying to force anything upon anyone. If anyone decides, okay, I find this basic gospel message is sounding good. If anyone decides, you know what, I want to hear more about this, so you will know, visit me at my church and whatsoever and so forth and things like that. I'm not trying to tell people to go and preach no gospel in the community centers. There's a time and place for everything. But basic Christian values is important for society to remain law-abiding and full of peace. It's just the reality. It's just the reality. So people, those are some of the solutions. But besides that, the police service is a failure. It's a failure. The whole training, the program needs to change. Police officers must not leave the training program, right? Believing that they are gods unto themselves, that they are above the law, that they could go and break all the traffic laws, parking, no parking zones, and watch your bold space, while they go and conduct their personal errands. They shouldn't believe that they have the authority to do that. They shouldn't believe that they have the authority to be using obscene language, that they have the right to be using obscene language in public and getting away with it while interacting with citizens. They shouldn't believe that. They shouldn't believe that they have the right to commit extrajudicial killings either, or extortion, human trafficking. They shouldn't believe that they have the authority to do those things and get away with it. And besides that, we need better qualified police officers. We need police officers that can actually conduct effective investigations. And they could gather real, valid evidence, credible evidence, so that when they're presented to the DPP and charges are laid, you could actually successfully prosecute these individuals in court, leading to imprisonment, instead of leading to lawsuits which cost the state thousands and millions of dollars. That's what you need to do. Kamala Pasalbi says, and that's what you need to be focusing on. But no, I've been preaching that gospel for months now. And I know certain UNC people are hearing my messages, but they don't care, because they are police lovers. So they don't care about the messages that I am conveying. For citizens navigating ongoing security concerns, true progress requires transparent, sustainable reforms rather than political credit-taking or unearned administrative praise. My official response to this whole news report is, if officers learn to abide by the same laws which they enforce and conduct professional investigations which can improve the detection rate, most citizens won't have a reason to criticize or distrust them. That's all enough. It's as simple as that. People, the police officers, unlike what the conservatives in America just love to back the blue unconditionally, I believe in someone earning people's trust and respect. Police officers should also perform their duties in a professional manner so that they can earn the respect and the trust of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
Weather report for Monday, August 3, 2026, Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago will experience variably cloudy conditions on Monday, with a high temperature of 31 degrees Celsius and a low of 25 degrees Celsius. An approaching tropical trough will increase atmospheric instability across the islands. There is a 50% to 70% chance of heavy morning showers or localized thunderstorms, along with a heat index reaching up to 34 degrees Celsius. Wind speeds will blow from the east to northeast at 5 to 35 kilometers per hour. Conditions may become breezy with stronger sudden gusts near heavy downpours. Sea states will remain slight to moderate with open-to-water waves ranging from 1.0 to 1.5 meters. Sheltered coastal areas will remain calm with waves dropping below 1.0 meter. Moderate concentrations of Saharan dust are forecast to be present in the atmosphere. Individuals with respiratory sensitivities or allergies should take proper precautions when outdoors. Heavy downpours may trigger localized street or flash flooding as well as temporarily agitated seas. Psalm 27, 1-3. A declaration of fearless faith. The Lord is my light and my salvation, so why should I be afraid? The Lord is the fortress of my life, so why should I tremble? When evil people come to devour me, when my enemies and foes attack me, they will stumble and fall. Though a mighty army surrounds me, my heart will not be afraid. Even if war breaks out against me, I will remain confident.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news update. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe most of all. In Jesus' name.